Hello, and welcome to a new episode of Ramblings from Two Meddling Kids. I'm your host, Edward Hunt, joined by my friend,
Mike Cunningham.
and we are the Meddling Kids, and we like to review movies. And today, we'll be reviewing Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. We've already been introed to it, now we gotta tour it around and see a bunch of things, and then who knows what happens. I guess we go beyond it later, maybe?
I don't know.
Yeah, crazy.
It's infinite possibilities.
Infinite possibilities here in the Spider-Verse. But again, for those of you joining us for the first time, or if you want a quick refresher, we like to review movies. We will never spoil anything in the first 5 to 10 minutes. We'll give you our spoiler-free review from a scale of 0 to 5. Then we'll give you some background about the movie and then really give you a breakdown of scenes as they come along. But, Mike, you ready to get started?
Yes.
All right, 0 to 5, spoiler-free review. What do you got?
4.
4, okay.
4. I have to give it a 4 just because of the fact that I like the Into the Spider-Verse a little bit better.
Yep, agreed.
So I give that one about a 4.5. So like this one's very, very close, but just a little bit behind the original. So yeah, solid 4. I think the animation was great. At times, like I've talked about a few people about this. Was like I think at times it did kind of wane on you since this movie's about 2 hours long. So like maybe 2 hours in, it was just like with the inconsistency with some of the animation, it did kind of. It was like Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
But it was like it wasn't like it was bad. It was just like it's like constantly looking at a strobe light. At a certain point, you're gonna have to blink.
Yeah.
But yeah, the animation was great, just like in the original. I think the story was really cool. I think it was really nice to get introduced to so many Spider-Men across the Spider-Verse. I keep telling people it was like. It's crazy how the MCU did the multiverse wrong, and studios with much smaller budgets did multiverse like storytelling correctly, and that's in Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Yeah.
And then in this, we're just like, this is what Multiverse of Madness was, because it was a madness in a multiverse.
It was chaotic.
And just seeing all the different types of Spider-Man, and Spider people in general, was like insane. I think the humor was there. It was like this had a lot of heart to it as well, which I guess not surprising, but it was like I think they did lean into this idea that as a superhero, or just like you kind of struggle because of the fact that if things need to be kept secret, then you're hiding part of yourself from the people that you care about. Yeah. And how do you navigate in a world like that? And so that I think that really pulled at the heartstrings for a lot of the storytelling here. I think the voice acting was really great.
Yep, for sure.
Everything the solid. Like really, I really enjoyed this one.
Nice.
Didn't I think I had an issue with the ending, and we'll get to it. But I think that's just because I didn't have enough information going in. If I would, and it's crazy because they announced it like years ago, like 2 years ago.
Did they announce that this was going to be?
There
was going to be a third too.
Yeah, they did. I didn't know.
Yeah, I had no idea.
It's funny. Even when I was looking up movie posters for this one, it said part 1 or some shit like that.
Okay. Yeah.
And so spoiler, but if it's known, not. But
yeah,
it was if I would have known that
now.
there was another sequel coming out, I would have understood why it ended the way it did.
Yeah.
A little bit more, and I wouldn't have been as frustrated as I was initially. But once I knew that, it was fine. But yeah, 4 really good movie. The animation was great. The writing was really good. The acting was great. Excuse me. Yeah. Solid sequel to a movie that was already amazing.
Absolutely.
Which is rare. You don't get too many sequels that exceed the original. You think like your T2s, or and things like that.
But you think the first one was better?
I do, okay. But I think it was just like this is a very great follow up to Spider-Man 2. Yeah, actually, that was another good sequel.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, Spider-Man 2. Yeah. Okay, so we got a 4 to 5 from Mike. I'm gonna give it a 3.5 for now. And I'm saying that I might wind up changing it. And I'm also going to say I gave it a 3.5 because the first Spider-Man, Intro to the Spider-Verse, I loved. I thought that was a great movie. I saw it multiple times. I've watched it multiple times since it's been released. Really loved it. So I might just be coming down too hard on this because I loved the first one so much. And I'm like, this isn't as good as the first one. But I'm like, to me... So I'm giving it 3.5. But my biggest gripes with this are the animation. It felt like they did everything from the first one just a little bit more. Yeah. And for me, I got a little bit tired of that at times.
It's interesting too. I was reading when I was doing the research. It was like they had a certain budget for animators, and it was like they exceeded it, like because of the fact that I think they added more animators, and I think you got to see that where. As I was talking to my friend Akil yesterday, it was just like at a certain point in the movie, it was like, we get it, you guys are super dope animators. Can we focus?
Yeah.
Why does everybody it's too many cooks in the kitchen in a way? It was just like even the idea, right? It was like you go into one universe. Yeah. This is the animation for it. So in Into the Spider-Verse. All of the other Spider people that came out kept their same animation. Yeah, and from their world. Yeah, but it was just like, but they're in this one. But I think in this one there was no consistencies to the worlds. Yeah, and it was just like, well, now it's like that's the chaos of it. It's, but sorry.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what you're saying exactly right. Like sometimes it just, for me, it was a little off-putting. Just and like, but from the animation, phenomenal animation as a whole. I didn't like through the dot style animation, like the old school comp, to make it look like an old school comic. I like that. But then I noticed it so much more in this one. Maybe it was in the first one too. I don't know. But like because of it, the backgrounds and everything in the background was blurry in this movie. Okay. I found so when I was looking at buildings or people that weren't like the center. So I was thinking of The Party comes to mind when you have Miles talking with his dad. So not spoiling anything. That's a party scene. Yeah. But like you're looking back at like the other characters in the background, I'm like, they're blurry because of all those dots. And for me, that just kind of was like, yeah, I get I'm supposed to be focusing on these people anyway, but if I'm watching this movie, I'm trying to take everything in. So like, I think that was a result of the animation.
I think, yeah, certain points too, I think, especially in that, the opening scene, which was amazing, but I think there was a certain flatness to it too. It seemed like the world wasn't as three-dimensional. It did give you that real comic book feel where it was just like, oh, this is a page. Yeah. Everything's there's no depth to anything.
And I noticed that. So like that was both good and like, but at times I just kind of was like, I got a little tired of it. Yeah. And then from there, like all the introductions, whenever you meet a new Spider-Man, they're like, all right, this is my quick backstory. Honestly, after meeting like 30 different Spider-Mans, I was a little like, okay.
It was funny. It was a running gag in the first one.
Exactly.
I think after, I think it's a rule of comedy, right? Where it's like you tell a joke until it's not funny. Hoping that if you continue it, it'll become funny again. I think Family Guy does it a lot. Yeah. But it was like after a certain point, it was like, no, you lost.
Exactly. Like, and that was it. It was like, we get it. In the first movie, that was such a very popular thing. It was very funny. And even in this one, it was pretty good for a while. But at the end, I was like, okay, look, I do not need another Spider-Man intro. But as a whole, still though, and also then the last thing is I also didn't know that it was number 1 of 2 that was coming out. So because of that, there were definitely times watching this movie, I'm like, this plot is getting thin at times, and it felt like to me, it made sense when they came up with it. Oh, there's going to be a third. I'm like, got you. That's why I felt like stuff was stretched out.
Yeah, because it was just like we got to the. It was like since I watched so many movies, I can tell kind of like the story beats like how we break down different acts. So it was just like I'm looking at Act 3, and it was like, why are you introducing this now? Like, what are we doing?
I'm like, exactly. So there was some of the parts of Act 1 and Act 2 I felt stretched out, and I'm like, I guess because you want to expand on the plot line and storyline, but at the same time, I mean, this was a 2 hour and 15-minute movie.
220,
220. So you could have made that, just cut 20 minutes out, make it a 2 hour movie.
When I was talking to my homeboy, he said it's not Act 1 through 3. It's like basically a long Act 1 and half of Act 2. Yeah. So it's like the conclusion will be the third film, but it was like I said, not going in, not knowing that, it's just like this seems a little off. This seems there's a chaos to the storytelling. Even though I love the story, but it was just like it seems like there's a tad chaotic.
I agree with that. And so now I'm left wondering how they're going to expand Part 3 into a full movie with how it left off. Without spoiling.
It's like when they did the Twilight movie, the conclusion.
Oh yeah,
and it was like since they didn't have enough material, basically Bella was just on crack.
That's what you got to do apparently.
Like, that was it. It was just like she's pregnant and it's not going well. That's the story. It was like, can we get to the battle?
Yeah, so I think like they could have probably cut 20 minutes off of this movie, but heck.
Because like I said, the way they have it set up in this to be continued, it was just like all the players are basically where they need to be ish. Yeah. So just like what are we doing?
Exactly. So for that though, I as always would like to say though, a 3.5 out of 5 coming from me is pretty solid because really I don't go past a 4.5. So 3.5 out of 5 is a solid movie that I would have no problem watching this again. But will I watch it that many times? No, probably not. So we have a 4 out of 5 for Mike, a 3 out of 5 for me. So both of us are definitely saying, check this movie out. It's a solid movie. And I do agree with that, even with my 3.5 is, you should see this movie. But yeah, so there you have it. So now we'd like to get into the background of this movie, figure out what's going on with it, what are other people saying about it, what was the budget, for instance. I mean, animated movies are pretty cheap nowadays, I've found, right? Just a couple of sketches
Real
and drawings.
shoestring budgets.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse came out June 2nd, 2023. The runtime was 2 hours and 20 minutes.
Yep.
The budget, some said 100. I think it said 100 on 100 million. Sorry, on Wikipedia, but on IMDb it said estimated about 150. So I'm gonna go with the latter just to.
That is honestly cheaper than I thought. Animation movies are cheap to make, apparently.
Yeah. The box office we won't know. I think it was sitting at maybe like 120 for its opening weekend. 120 mil, sorry.
Yeah.
Which is really good.
Yeah, and Spider-Man is one of the most, if not the most popular superhero in the world, right?
Yeah, like, you get your DC heroes and the big three in big four in DC, and then for Marvel before the MCU, it was literally Spider-Man, the Hulk.
Yeah. I think
Spider-Man and the Hulk.
X-Men. I mean, X-Men
and
were
the
really
X-Men,
popular
yeah.
worldwide. But Spider-Man as a whole, that IP before Marvel, he was by far like the most popular superhero because he's such a relatable, amazing character.
It's crazy that every iteration from your Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, Tom Holland, and now Shameik Moore as Miles Morales, like every iteration has been great. Like it's funny how like they at times they fumble with Batman and your Supermans, but like they've never dropped the ball with Spider-Man.
Yeah, I think it's because Spider-Man's a cool character.
Yeah,
even from the comics, I grew up. That was the first superhero I loved reading was Spider-Man. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, box office. I think it's estimated about 120. We'll see. Obviously, it's Sunday, but I usually wait until about 10 o'clock when the theaters close to get a full get a full scope of the weekend box office. Right now, the Rotten Tomatoes is looking really good at a 95 critic score, a 97 audience score.
Cool. That makes sense. It's a good movie.
It's really, really good. The director. So this. I was telling you this before. This is the first time I'm seeing 3 directors.
Oh.
So we've seen 2 with Dungeons and Dragons, but this is like three directors. So you have Joaquim Dos Santos, Kemp Powers, and Justin K. Thompson.
Interesting.
I believe.
Who's the main one?
That's what I'm saying. I think they
head director?
So the first 2
Three's a lot.
Santos and Powers. I believe they both. No, that's a lie. So just look at your notes, Mike. Don't go up.
We don't improv here.
So Dos Santos was a storyboard artist on Avatar: The Last Airbender, Justice League, and G.I. Joe. Powers was a writer for Star Trek Discovery, Soul, the Disney movie that came out.
Yeah.
And then One Night in Miami, and then Thompson was actually the production designer for the Into the Spider-Verse movie.
Oh, okay.
So it's just like Thompson came back. He was working at a different capacity in Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Came back as the director for this one. I think brought these 2 guys on as well. So it's just like so a trio of directors. Which is interesting because you've seen duos a bunch. It was like 2 friends and like Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg, or like
Matt Damon, Ben Affleck.
But 3 is interesting because but maybe that adds to the chaos in this. Like we were talking about when it came to the animation, since these are all animation, like they're animation guys.
Yeah. But wonder how you're gonna make decisions. Yeah, it seems like that's a lot of cooks in the kitchen. Yeah.
So this stars Shameik Moore voicing Miles Morales, Oscar Isaac as Miguel O'Hara, or Spider-Man 2099.
Yeah.
Haley Steinfeld as Gwen, Gwen Stacy, or Spider-Woman, or Spider-Gwen, really. I think she has a few names that she goes by. Jake Johnson as Peter B. Parker, Issa Rae as Jessica Drew, Brian Tyree Henry as Jefferson Davis, iconic name. Luna Lauren Velez as Rio Morales, Jason Schwartzman as The Spot, and Daniel Kaluuya as Hobie or Spider-Punk.
Yeah, Spider-Punk. Got you.
There's no tagline for this movie. I was really upset. I was really curious as to what they would.
It's across the Spider-Verse. We go across things. Spider.
You know, my niece does that. So like, she can't say Spider-Man. She's 2 years old, so she'll just go. Psst.
Hey, there you go. But you know what she's talking about
because her brothers love Spider-Man. So she does. She just says. Psst.
She just wants to hang out. She wants to be cool. I get it. Yeah.
But yeah, that's the background information that I have.
Beautiful. So yeah, that is the background of Spider-Man. And then we are now about to get into our play-by-play of scenes. So if you haven't seen it yet and you don't want any spoilers, pause the video here, go and check out the movie, go watch it, then just make sure you come back and we can hash it all out together. But before we do, a quick word from our sponsors. First and foremost, me. Hello. I'm a real estate agent here in the DMV. I'm on the Just Be team of Compass. So if you're interested in any advice or anything related to homes, feel free to reach out at any time. I can help you with great contractors, great lenders, or advice on the market and how everything's going. Also, you may have noticed that I have a Kickstarter going on right now for my comic Evil is a Weapon Chainsaw Wars. We have 10 days left and we are at 66%, so the campaign has been going great. And I can't wait to show everyone the final product. We have, literally over half the comic is made. I might be bringing in a new letterer. Just right now I've had my artist's lettering things, but a new letterer will kind of lighten the load for him as well. And super excited to show everyone that fun story. Kind of imagine Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Evil Dead, and Highlander kind of meshed together. And Mike has something for us today too.
Yeah, so starting this month for the next few weeks, I am doing a fundraising challenge with Push for Better. Called the Push-Up Challenge. So basically people sign up to pledge to do either 1,500 or 3,000 push-ups in 23 days. It's like just supporting mental health and like suicide awareness. So I'm doing it with my little sister. She got me into it. I figure why not.
Is there like a way people can donate too?
Yes, I'll leave. Yeah, so you can look up. I'll leave the link in the bio and everything like that. But it was just like, you can either donate, you can support people who are doing the challenge, or you can do it yourself. Honestly, so there's still time to join. But yeah, so I'll be doing that for the next until the 23rd.
Cool. So like 1,500 push-ups, 23 days.
Yes.
What do you do with the other 22 days?
I feel like die.
Yeah. Like literally have your chest explode. Like just rush. It's good. It's fine. Don't worry about it. Yeah. So a super great cause with that for mental health. That's phenomenal. So yeah, absolutely. It's called what again? One more time.
It's called Push for Change.
Push for Change.
Yes.
Love it.
And it's the push-up challenge.
Yeah. Sweet. So we have a lot of fun things going on, and would love for you all to also support Push for Change, because that is something that's very near and dear to my heart. But now, let's get started. So after the first Spider-Man intro to the Spider-Verse happened, everyone's happy, right? Life is good. What's going on?
They fixed they got all the Spider people back to their correct dimensions. Miles is, confident in himself now to be the one and only Spider-Man in New York. So it wrapped up very nicely.
Yep, for sure.
I think we did get a sneak of like Gwen visiting him.
Yes.
At the conclusion of that film, but it was like you didn't really know what was going on. But like in the opening for Across the Spider-Verse, we get, instead of Miles doing an introduction, you get Gwen Stacy doing an introduction. She recaps the first film, saying that obviously being a Spider person, you do feel alone, right?
Yep.
You have to hide the secret identity from the people you care about in order to protect them, but that also means you're hiding a part of yourself, and it was like that can be very struggling. So when those different Spider people met one another in Into the Spider-Verse, they felt less alone.
For sure.
But now that everybody's back to where they're supposed to be, she especially is feeling a little back to being alone. She's like she has a strained relationship with her father. Yep. And we get a bit of, so she tells the story of the first film, but also we get a bit of her backstory. Yeah. And you find out that in her universe or her dimension or whatever, I don't know. Are we gonna do universe or dimension?
Let's do dimension. It's multiverse.
Okay.
Yeah, let's just do dimension though.
Okay.
Yeah.
I want to stay.
For sure.
I don't want to use them as overlap. Yeah. But yeah, in her dimension, she's the one that gets bit by the radioactive spider and becomes Spider-Woman. Yep. But she's very close to Peter Parker.
Yeah, like they're like really good friends.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Peter Parker, being a nerd, he's often bullied. She stands up for him, but he takes matters in his own hands. Yep. Because he's a brilliant scientist, and he becomes, I guess, the chameleon or something? The reptile.
So in this, so in Spider-Gwen's universe, Peter Parker becomes a reptile, versus in like traditional canon,
Peter Parker. Connors?
It's one of Peter's lab assistants or something, or that Peter works under. Yeah, so Peter works under Connors. Yeah, I'm blanking on the name. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But yeah, so he because he's being bullied, he experiments on himself to become the reptile, and he attacks his bully Spider-Gwen has to fight him, and in an accident he dies in their fight. And as he transforms back, the cops show up, and her dad is a police officer. He sees Spider-Woman standing over Peter Parker, who is like a son to him because he's very close to his daughter. And so he just vows revenge on finding. He accuses Spider-Woman of killing Peter Parker. And now he vows to find the killer. And so he has a hatred for Spider-Woman. Obviously Gwen is Spider-Woman, so now there's this strange relationship. It's like conflict because she does feel, she made a friend and lost a friend, so now she doesn't want to make another one in fear of losing another. So that's what was kind of, you saw that, I guess, in the original in Into the Spider-Verse, where she was a little bit reluctant to be a part of a team.
For sure.
And so after we get her background, she's like telling this while she's like at band practice, drumming aggressively. Like the rest of the band members are like, "Are you good?
Good, bro?
Clearly something's wrong. Something's the matter." And it was like, you can talk to us and stuff like that. I think it was really cool her having people around her where she can kind of have a sounding board. But she's just not ready for it because, like we said, she's reluctant to make friends. She joined the band just because of the fact that it's a punk rock band. She's she's a teenage girl in that grunge phase where it's just like she's angry, doesn't know how to release it, and this is the most constructive way she can think, just banging on the drums.
Well, because also this is very isolated, and that's one of the coolest parts about the character of Spider-Man as a whole has always been that you get so much of their personal identity mixed in, and you get all the tragedy. Like I think there's if you just look purely at Peter Parker as a character has had the most messed up stuff happen to him from like family members and loved ones he has die, but then he's also dated the most people in like all of the out of every Marvel superhero because
grief is sexy. I get what
you're saying. No, but that's because I suppose. But because so much of Spider-Man is their secret identity. So Gwen Stacy in Spider-Woman's case, but you get that feel for this as a character, which makes it so much more relatable to us. Because I don't have superheroes, but I can relate to the human side.
But so she's at band practice. She kind of quits because of the fact that they're just I think in her mind they're badgering her, but I think and they're just literally just trying to reach out to a friend that's going through something. So she leaves band practice. She goes home, and she has kind of an combative exchange with her father because he's really obsessed with finding Spider-Woman to bring her in because of the fact that he thinks that she killed Peter Parker. But even in that, their animosity that they kind of have towards one another, there is still love there.
Absolutely.
Like they don't agree on like the who killed Peter, and even though like she feels guilt for that moment because she didn't kill Peter.
No, it was like
something just like scaffolding just fell
during the fight.
But it was like since they were fighting, I think she feels responsible for it. So she's going through that grief and the grief of like not being able to talk to anybody about it. But it was like even with her having these mixed emotions and stuff like that, she's still like her dad goes like they fight and there's this quiet and then he goes, "Are you still too cool to hug your dad?"
And before he punk rock to hug.
And before he can even finish his sentence, she just jumps into his arms. Because she does love him. And
absolutely.
I think even him, it was like kind of relenting. It was like I need to calm down. I know I'm super passionate about this. But in this moment, I need to stop being a cop and be a dad.
And it's because you look at it and truly he thinks that that's the best thing is to find Peter Parker's killer because that was her best friend. And like so he's obsessed with it. And then that's such a lonely, isolating experience. It's like how could she explain to anybody that she's Spider-Woman, that she's the only one of her kind here on this universe or this dimension? So it's a rough thing. But the fact that there is that love and hug was like that's a really nice moment that shows positive, great family dynamic, even with all the stress.
And so as they're hugging, he gets a call on the walkie-talkie. There's some incident at the Guggenheim Museum, and so he leaves because obviously he's a police officer. She then turns her on her own police radio because every superhero has a police scanner.
You need one.
Well, I guess every neighborhood level.
Once you have like a satellite in the air, you don't need it anymore. But until then,
But yeah, so she also heads to the Guggenheim Museum as well. And this is what I was saying. I was like, at certain points during these scenes, the animation was very flat.
Yeah.
It wasn't until I think she got to the Guggenheim Museum, it kind of like it went more 3-dimensional.
Fair. Yeah.
I think that's just something I noticed during the when we were actually watching.
Sure.
I'll just watch it again.
Yeah.
I was thinking about it today, just kind of doing it.
Yeah, honestly, I wouldn't be against watching it in theaters. Yeah,
but yeah, so she gets to the Guggenheim Museum. They find out that a vulture is attacking the museum, and so before the cops can go in, Spider-Woman webs them to their cars to keep them safe. And she even has an exchange with her dad, obviously with her mask on. It was like, looking for me or some shit like that. And I was just like, okay, don't be a dick.
Yeah. Because her dad was just like, I feel like I'm getting close. I'm going to catch her. I can feel it. And she's like, oh, I guess you're getting close to catching me, huh? I'm like,
But I think also, well, we'll get into it in a second, but it was like the thing about Spider people in general is that quick wit.
Yes, for sure.
So just like having a movie full of them, we'll see later, but it was, all right, this is too much.
Yeah, it's
like the movie with Ryan Reynolds that came out on Netflix last year, where he teamed up with his younger self.
Oh, right.
So it's like Ryan Reynolds and then an 11-year-old Ryan Reynolds, and it was just like, okay, one of you, not both.
Yeah,
I can't do two Deadpools, my guy.
This did do a good job with like making fun of the fact that Spider-Man's known for its like quips and everything, but still, it was
it was too much quipping because if everybody's doing
everyone's quipping, we can't all be the fun.
You can't all be the comedic relief. Somebody has to be the Spangler. What is I got from my Ghostbusters? Egon.
Egon, the straight man.
But yeah, so she webs the cops to protect them from going into the building, and then she goes to fight the Vulture.
Yep.
And this Vulture, you notice, is not from this dimension.
Yes.
It's from some Renaissance era
paper dimension.
Yeah. He's even talking Italian, I believe, or something like that.
Yeah, it's like it's 1500s Italian. Everything's like Leonardo da Vinci, like not cyberpunk. What's the word I'm blanking on?
It looks like the man that
steampunk. Steampunk.
Yes,
steampunk is what I'm looking for. Steampunk. Everything's like paper, right? So he even looks like drawn on like the old yellowy parchment paper. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so as they're fighting, we get our introduction. It was like a portal opens up, and we get our introduction to Miguel O'Hara, aka Spider-Man 2099.
Yep. Yeah.
The dopest Spider-Man.
It's a cool Spider-Man.
Yeah, he's the coolest Spider-Man. I swear to God. Like we literally saw hundreds. My favorite. I don't care. Like,
okay, yeah, he's tough, badass.
I mean, Spider-Punk was cool too.
But
I think the chaoticness of his
Spider-Punk was cool in a different way.
But also Miguel O'Hara, the greatest costume for a Spider-Man. But yeah, so he arrives and he has a interdimensional watch because in the original. Spider-Verse, Into the Spider-Verse, anytime you left your dimension, you started glitching out because it was the universe trying to correct itself. It was like basically, I was talking to Akil yesterday, it was just like, it seemed like the universe is like the human body.
Okay.
It was just like anytime it detected a new, an anomaly. It was like, the body basically trying to attack a virus.
For sure.
In a way. So it's just like, if you're in another dimension and you don't have this watch that he has, you're just gonna start glitching out because you're not supposed to be there. And so he uses that watch to travel to her to Gwen's dimension, which is 65. Sorry.
Okay.
To capture the anomaly that is the Vulture.
Yep. Yeah.
And so this is where I think this is what I was saying earlier. This is where you get the quippiness where she's like, well, she's talking to him, and it was like, I think. Maybe they did it in the MCU with Spider-Man's introduction during Civil War, where Sam Wilson was like, "You don't talk this much during a fight," which I guess is a big thing in superhero stuff, just in general. It's just like, I can't punch and talk. I'm gonna do one of them. I'm weary of it.
Now, if you're Spider-Man, you can punch and talk. All right.
But yeah, so it's just like there's a bit of a back and forth between them. Like she's constantly asking him, like, "What are you doing here? What is that?" Yada yada. While still fighting, and he's having trouble, capturing Vulture because they're trying to also protect the people that are in the museum.
Personally, though, I will say the fact that he had trouble catching this Vulture kind of took away some of his credibility
for
me. I'm just like, sir, you're supposed to be like the most badass dude ever who's in charge, and you can't handle one Vulture by yourself. Like, come on,
But so then he has to call for backup. So he calls another person from the Spire Society, Jessica Drew, or aka Spider Woman, and she rides in another cool Spider. She rides in on a motorcycle. And you see that immediately that she's pregnant, and it was like you get a bit of her backstory, just like her husband and stuff, and it was just like, okay, interesting. It was, once again, it didn't do the thing in the original Into the Spider-Verse where it was just like anybody can be Spider-Man.
Yeah.
But it was just like each Spider-Man is unique though.
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
Obviously, it takes somebody special, but so that was like her introduction was really cool. I think she doesn't have a secret identity, is what it is.
I don't know, honestly.
Because of the fact like she didn't wear a mask.
Yeah, her mask was very small.
It was just like glasses.
Yeah, basically.
Yellow glasses. But yeah, all three of them are able to work together to capture the Vulture and save the people in the museum. I think at some point the Vulture had blown up a helicopter.
Yeah, Vulture blew up a helicopter, so that was crashing down.
Yeah, so they're working.
They're
working together to save the helicopter from crashing into the people in the museum, and also capturing the Vulture.
Yeah.
And as they're about to, take the Vulture back to their headquarters, her father, who has broken out of the webbing, entered the museum. And he goes to stop Spider-Woman. He says, "Freeze!" And she's confused because you're just like, I just saved. I'm the hero. You just watched
me save everyone.
Yeah. So it's like, how do you still see me as a killer? And then like she just kind of just breaks down, and she was like, he's once again one-track minded, and it's just like, if I find Peter Parker's killer, it'll solve everything. Yeah. In a way, right?
Yeah.
And so he says, you're under arrest for the murder of Peter Parker. And she's had enough, and so she takes off her mask and reveals that she's his daughter. Yep. And I think it's crazy. It's animation, right? But it was like you felt him like literally at a loss.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It was just like talking about the emote acting from after watching Little Mermaid. It was just the emotion because he's like totally like, what do I do now?
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
It was like one, it's his daughter. It was like so, and it goes to every time like any friend of a superhero finds out their identity is just like, you've been lying to me this whole It is like a textbook.
Which is for the record, that's one thing. I'm like, how are you supposed to just let people know you're a superhero?
It's not the Flash TV series where in the first episode, like 6 people knew.
No. It's like, you've been lying, but no, I haven't been lying to you.
It's a secret identity,
for a reason. Yeah, that always is one of my gripes.
It always pisses me off.
I'm just like, people let me shut up.
You lied to me. Really? That's where we're starting.
That's where we're okay.
All right.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he has this moment where he's just like, he doesn't know what to do, and so whether I'm a dad or a cop, right? And we learn a little bit later is like he is very much like he feels like he needs to uphold the law. Like that is his purpose in life, right? He's a cop because of the fact that there's people that are bad out there, even within the cops, within the police department. So it's like if he's not living by the law, then somebody else is going to probably exploit it.
Yep. So he has a very black and white mentality with that of like, that's what he thinks back to. Because when you're so like, because I mean, you can't only imagine what that's like.
Yeah.
So when you have your mind spinning, everything's reeling. I've been hunting this person down for so long, and now they're here in front of me, and it's my daughter. Well, fuck, what can you fall back on? So what he falls back on is the fact that he's a cop and a damn good cop, but he's a cop. So then he said, you're under arrest.
Yeah, he still says you're under arrest. And she's just like, and then you see her, she's at a loss.
Yeah, absolutely.
And even though Miguel was fighting it, like, so he traps her dad in this force field.
Yeah, that's how they get out of it. He like chucks little force fields, and now the dad's trapped in a force field.
And then they invite her to come along with. They give her, a interdimensional traveling watch. And she leaves with them. Yeah,
because it's like she can't really be here anymore. Yeah. At least she could, but then she'd be on the run from her father. Her father would know, blah, blah, blah. She's still a high schooler, so that would suck. Yeah.
And it was like I think that was a very great opening. It was like intense, full of action, but also disheartened.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it was like, it made me less upset because it was like entering a Spider-Man movie and not seeing Spider-Man immediately was like, come on.
Yeah. We saw Spider-Gwen. Come
on. But yeah, so it was a really great opening, and then we jumped to Earth 1610.
Yes, Miles.
Miles is a dimension. And he's, you see that his parents are at a parent-teacher conference or like some meeting, and they're even though he's only a sophomore at this Visions Academy that he was enrolled in the first film, they're focused on his future. It was like him getting into college. Like, what do we need? How do we prepare him now for his future?
Yep.
And so they're at the meeting with the guidance counselor, but Miles isn't there yet. Mm-hmm. And so like you get this funny back and forth where like his dad is texting him.
Yeah.
And he's just like reading like as the texts are coming, he's reading. He was like, well, he used it all in one word. That's a good sign.
That's a good sign. Yeah, wait a minute. Oh, crazy kid's always on his way.
He said dot 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 dot.
Yeah, it's like he's typing something and just dot dot dot. Yeah.
And so while his parents are at the parent teacher conference, Miles is actually at a bodega because we meet what he calls the villain of the week.
Yeah.
This villain called the Spot.
Yes.
He's just like he's all white with like different spots, but the spots on him are interdimensional portals.
Yes.
So he's gone into the bodega to use the ATM because he's gonna steal it. So like he's hoping to just put a portal on the ATM so that he can reach in, grab the money, and get out of it.
Yeah, and
but
he's still figuring out his powers.
Yeah, but he he can't fully understand his powers yet, so he's fumbling around. Miles comes, is like to stop him.
Yeah.
But it's a very comedic scene because it's like a robber that doesn't know what he's doing.
Yeah,
but clearly his powers are really cool and powerful.
Yeah, oh for sure.
But he was just like he just doesn't know what to do. So
because Miles will try and punch him and punch himself in the face. Miles will punch himself in the face because it goes through another portal.
It's funny. It's like when I looked up the did some background on the Spot. Mm-hmm. His introduction. It was like the comic book cover page.
Yeah,
it's just like Spider-Man in a room. It seems like, and there's just a bunch of spots on the floor. And you just see him like a fist coming out of one of the like his own fist.
Yeah.
So it was like really cool, and it was like they recreated that in the this opening scene with him. Mm-hmm. And so like you see both Miles and the Spot fighting, outside the bodega, and then like in the outside of the in the bodega, outside the bodega, and it was like they just keep getting transported random places because of the fact that he can't control. The Spot can't control where the portals go. Mm-hmm. He just doesn't know. And I think he traps. So we do get a little bit of background on the Spot. So he worked at the collider, like the lab that had the collider into the Spider-Verse. And he's telling him, he was like, I created you. Like, I'm the one that brought the spider that bit you into... I brought it from its own dimension,
Earth 42
into this one, and it bit you, and that's how you became Spider-Man. And then you blew up the collider when I was in there, and because I was in the room with the collider when it blew up, I became this.
Yes,
so it's like we are connected, you and I. And it was interesting because of the fact that I think I did see 42 in the. Into the Spider-Verse right before the spider bit him.
Yeah.
But I assumed it was like Subject 42 or something like that.
Yeah, same. Subject 42.
So I think that was really cool because it was like, I don't even know if that was the original plan.
Yeah,
which is what I do love about this movie, right? It was the fact that it didn't have to retcon things, right? It was just like, it was utilizing different Easter eggs and whatever was in the original to add on. But it wasn't a retcon. You know what I'm saying?
I didn't even think about that. Yeah, because I agree, looking at it with the spider being 42, I assume specimen 42, not from Earth 42. Yeah,
so I thought that was really cool.
That is really cool.
But so we get that background with the Spot, and then, they're having a back and forth, and Miles is able to trap him somewhere, being the fact that Spot can't control the portal, so Miles uses that to his advantage to trap him somewhere so he can go meet his parents.
He can do like the Spot, like all the Spot's limbs are like through his own portals and all webbed somewhere and just stuck. So he's like stuck with like pieces almost. Yeah, which is really cool.
It was really cool. And it was like, so Miles goes back to his dorm room, and his roommate found out about his secret identity in the first one, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
It must have.
And now they just have a rapport where like his roommate is in his room. He comes in and he was just like, hey, how'd the fight go? It was like they just have this back and forth.
But the roommate's like, I am not going to be your man in the chair. Yeah. Like, I am not helping out. Like, I am not doing that. Absolutely not. Yeah.
And so Miles gets dressed, and then he goes to meet with his parents and the counselor. And then, they're just trying to figure out his grades are really good. He really wants to go to.
Oh, he has a B in Spanish.
And that was he had an A in like physics and calculus and all these other things, and then a B in Spanish. And it's funny because I feel like there's a Stephen Yoon, I believe, or something like that, is a YouTube comedian. Yeah, but like. And he does like the emotional damage. And he has one where it was just like he's going over his grades, and it was like I got an A-, and he was like, I mean, not great but fine. And he was like, I got a B he said, I think he got a B in math, and it was like, what did you say? So it's like the equivalent, but with, since his mom is Latin.
Yeah, she's Dominican.
From Puerto Rico.
I thought it was Dominican.
No, Puerto Rico.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
Yeah, because when she said, she was like, Puerto Rico's a part of.
Oh, for some reason I thought.
So when there's a scene where like he's saying that his parents are like kind of on to him, like trying to figure it out. So they're sitting at the table in the house, and his mom goes, "I think Spider-Man is half Puerto Rican," and then he goes, "No, I think he's Dominican," like trying to throw her off.
Okay,
so throw her off the scent.
Okay, so I thought he was saying, okay, that makes sense. Yeah.
But yeah, so like they're going over his grades, and it was like he's big into physics, and he wants to go to somewhere in New Jersey, Princeton.
Princeton. In New Jersey.
Calm down. It's enough New Jersey slander for the weekend. But yeah, he wants to go to New Jersey because their lab has a top lab for physics, and they're working in really complex stuff. And it was like he wants to learn under the best people in that field. Yeah. And his mom is very much like, I'm a mother with who's this is her only child, and she's very protective, and she doesn't want him going that far. She was like, there's plenty of
good schools in New York.
New York that you could go to. But yeah, so they have that back and forth, and it was just like he needs to get to class, so he leaves. But he also sees that Miles needs to get to class, so he heads out. But it was like he also sees that Spot has broken free.
Yeah, I think he was like, I got to the class, but he's just going to go to the Spot. Because Miles, he's been truant from a lot of his classes.
Yes.
It is hard for him to balance everything with being Spider-Man, because if villains are happening, he's skipping class to go affect stuff. Yeah.
And so what happens? His dad also leaves.
Because he has a call.
He has a call. And then the guidance counselor says something that was just like, he's lying to you. And she, Rio thinks that she's talking about Jefferson. She's like, no, your son.
Yeah.
There's something up with Miles, obviously. So he has another exchange with the Spot. They go to the lab where the collider had exploded. And they're fighting. He's really going back. I think he gives more backstory as to like who he is. He can't get a job, so he turns to a life of crime because nobody will hire him because of how he looks. And as they're fighting, he steps into a portal and kicks his own butt, and then he falls into himself
and seals off the portal. And because Miles' dad is here at this point. Because him and Miles, Captain Morales, Miles' father.
He's not a captain yet.
Oh, you're right. The one underneath Captain,
Sergeant, maybe.
I think it's higher than Sergeant. Anyway, but
Lieutenant. No, Lieutenant. Whatever. Shut up.
Yeah, the one right below Captain. He's done very well for himself. He's a great cop. So he's helping Spider-Man out to try and capture the Spot as well. So they're kind of working together while they're fighting all over the place. And then then he gets sealed off. And then Spider-Man Miles looks to his dad, but he doesn't know. And he's like, well, we'll never see him again. That's fine. And I'm just like,
But so they have a Spider-Man and Jefferson Davis have a heart-to-heart where Jefferson was like, because he's raising a teenager. And obviously at a certain point, your kids do their own thing, right? You raise them to a point, and it was like that you expect them to, raising a bird, or you raise it.
Yeah, but this kid's 15. I am 100% on the parent side for this. I'm like, that is a 15-year-old kid.
Of course, but it's still that frustration, right? It was just like, so he had, and it's obviously Jefferson doesn't know that his son is Spider-Man, so he's just like they're having a heart-to-heart, and it was like, why don't you get off the kid's back? And he's like, what? What'd you say?
I mean, whatever. Maybe he needs to spread his wings and fly. Yeah. No, but he's still, from a parent looking at that, yes, you can give them lots of responsibilities and freedoms, but at the same time, if you have a 15-year-old, I can speak for myself. If I have a 15-year-old kid and he's truant in classes and he's missing stuff, I'm going to come down on him. As long as you're doing what you got to do, you're good. But parents.
But so they have a heart-to-heart. Then they go off because there's a party for Jefferson that evening because he is being promoted to captain. Miles is in charge of getting the cake.
Yep.
So he goes off to do that. Then you see the parents at the party. Meanwhile, the Spot is in I guess the void, I would call it, or something like that. Yeah. He's fallen into himself, and now he's there's just a bunch of different spots, and he peeks in and he goes into different dimensions.
Just like a Lego land.
That was funny as shit. Great, I love that one, especially because I really enjoyed the two Lego movies.
For sure.
The one, the original Lego movie and then the Lego Batman movie.
Yep, yeah, they were great.
Really
yeah,
good.
they were both really good. Yeah.
So yeah.
Lego Spider-Man, I guess.
So yeah, he peeked into the Lego world. He peeked into Venom's world with Tom Hardy.
Yep, yeah.
And a few more, but he's realizing that he needs more spots, but he's also learning to control how he traverses the multiverse.
Yep, yeah.
Through these spots. So he was like, he's not just your villain of the week.
Yeah, he's getting a little strong.
And then,
while that's going on, the parents are at the party.
Yeah. And also, so one thing too is like the Spot has, he's peeking into these different worlds, and Lego Spider-Man, after he's seen the Spot, he calls Miguel O'Hara.
Okay. Yeah,
and lets him know that we have a problem. There's an anomaly jumping.
I want to see how that team up's going to work, though. Like, what is Miguel going to look like in this Lego land? Is he going to be like a huge...
This is like, he's huge, and then like...
Everyone else is that big? Yeah, right? Are they the same size? I don't know, but I want to know. So when Lego Spider-Man goes to other planets, I want to know how it compares to every... Is it like can you imagine a giant Lego person your size moving and talking?
Like the... talking about Ghostbusters again, like the Stay Puft Marshmallow.
Oh, yeah, exactly, like that.
But yeah, so now Miguel is alerted to the fact that the Spot has, found a way to travel through different dimensions.
Yep. Yeah.
And so we jump back to the Morales family. Jefferson and Rio are giving a speech. So Rio's told to give a speech at the party, and she starts rambling or whatever. So Jefferson takes the mic away from her and just gives a speech. It was like showing love for his wife, and like his friends and family. And then he says, and to Miles, he says, you're the reason why I do this or whatever. But Miles isn't there yet. He's getting the cake, and he was like, for some reason, he didn't just swing over.
Well, he should have just swung over with it when he had the cake. But because Miles, while trying to get the cake, he was constantly had to fight bad guys and and it's hard to balance all that for sure. But so he's trying to fight all these bad guys. The cakes get, he leaves the cakes on top of a taxi while he fights a bad guy. Crap, now he has to swing after the taxi. All of that,
And so Jefferson gives his heartfelt speech at the party, but Miles isn't there to hear it. And then he shows up with the cakes.
Yeah. Well, it's one of the scenes where he's like, to my son, I love you so much, and everyone's like, come on, Miles, take a bow. And it's like Miles ain't there. I'm like, oh, that's awkward.
Yeah. And so Miles does finally arrive with the cakes, and they're messed up because of his traveling through New York to get there. And I think he gets grounded then, right?
Yeah, so they argue it out.
There's a little argument at the party.
And he's grounded for like a month.
Yeah.
That's what he said.
And it was so funny because it's like the DJ was trying, like as they're arguing, there's a DJ at the party. He's trying to just turn up the music so like it drowns out the argument. And then he's just sitting on a point like, I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
But so Miles goes to his room.
He's like, you can't ground me, I'm Spider-Man.
Yeah, exactly. And then but he still follows it. So it was interesting too, and somebody brought this up. Like I said, I've done a bit of research in this since I've seen it. But it was like they're grounding him, but he stays at the school.
Yeah, right. So it's also gonna be super hard to figure
just
that out too.
Make that make sense. Yep. But anyway, he's laying on his bed listening to headphones, and then we get the scene, and I guess from the post credits of Into the Spider-Verse, where Gwen has opened a portal. Yep. And she says, she just gets his attention, comes into his room, and it was just like because he never thought he'd see any of them again.
Absolutely.
Especially her. He's been like sketching her a bunch or whatever, but like he never thought he'd see her again. So like they have a heartfelt a reunion, and then she goes.
So she's like, I'm grounded, I can't hang up. But she's like, is Spider-Man grounded? Yeah. So then they both go swinging off. So they leave the room, they both go swinging off throughout the town or city.
And so she tells him about the Spider Society and her traveling interdimensionally and stuff.
But she's being pretty sketch.
Yeah,
she's being pretty.
And he also he's because he knows a bunch about it. He asks about her dad and stuff like that. And at one point, they're having this heart to heart, and this is where they brought up the whole fact of the struggle of being not just Spider-Man or a Spider Person, but a superhero, and this having to hide who you are from the people that you care about. So it was nice that when they met other Spider people, you feel less alone.
Yeah.
And you can definitely see that he very much likes her, but she's very standoffish. One, because she doesn't want to make friends, and we learned that from the first one. And then two, I think it is that Well, she also knows a little
Yeah,
bit
she
more.
knows more now. Yeah, she knows more. So the only reason she's allowed here is because she's doing a mission.
Yes.
We don't know
I was about to say that. At some point, she does lose. She kind of sneaks away from Miles, and she puts up a little security camera because after Miguel got the heads up from Lego Spider-Man.
Yeah, just Lego Spider-Man. That's funny to me. Yeah.
After he got the heads up from Lego Spider-Man, they sent Gwen to 1610. That's Miles's dimension.
Yeah.
To track and really report back on the spot. And you see him; he's gathering supplies from the lab to try to recreate the collider explosion to gain more interdimensional spots.
He wants more spots.
Yeah. And so she sets up a security cam.
So he's a pretty one-dimensional character because he just wants to get lots of spots.
I ignored it for a reason.
Get it? Because he's not one-dimensional. There's a lot of dimensions on him.
And so she sets up the camera, then heads off back with Miles. They go back to the house. Well, they go to one of his favorite spots. They perch, they talk, and then they go back to the house.
Well, the parents see that he's not in the room at any point in time. But then when he shows up at the party later with a girl, and I'm just like, it was just from like the continuity perspective.
But they do notice that he left, and then he adds a few more months to the grounding.
Yeah.
And then Gwen and Miles show up at the party. She's officially introduced to his parents and calls them by their first names.
Yeah.
And both of them are like, "Word, that's what we do."
What's funny because they make a reference earlier, like I didn't like that person. They called me by my first name, and then she does it, and it's like, "Oh, she's calling us by her first name." Okay, there you go. Yeah,
it is Miss Morales to you, madam. But yeah, so it's just like she gets an alert that obviously the spot is doing something.
Yeah.
And so she runs off or whatever, and Miles, his mom initially notices that he lit up around Gwen, and when she left, he felt some type of way because of the fact that I think she walked away and she gave him a handshake.
Yes,
so it was something very very formal, very distant, standoffish. And his mom notices this, so his parents give each other a look, and his dad leaves so his mom can talk to him. And this is where there's a speech in the trailer basically saying for his whole life, she was protecting him as a child, right? Because as a parent, you're scared that you're scared for your children. You want to make sure that they're safe. You want to make sure that the people that they surround themselves with also care about them as much as you do, and things like that. And it's tough to see, your child kind of go off on their own, do their own thing. And this is what I was saying. It was this movie did it well. It was just that acceptance of a parent to let even though he's still 16.
Yeah.
I get
15.
it. He's 16. He's 16.
It was 15, I thought.
No, 16.
I think he's 15.
Maybe.
If he was 16, I don't know. If he was 17, I'd be 100%. I'd be all on board
I'm
with it.
pretty sure he's... But whatever, it doesn't matter. It's not that deep. But...
$20 says he's 15.
20 push-ups. I'll do it for push-ups. But yeah, so it is very emotional moment where her just kind of accepting that her child, won't always be a child. So just because he was he wants to go away for college, and he was who knows where he'll go from there. So it is these initial talks that she has to have with him, but also herself, to accept that he's growing up. Yeah, he's becoming the person that obviously they reared him to be. And so she ungrounds him. Yep, for a little bit, so that he can go, follow Gwen. But she says, make sure, just promise me that you'll take care of the little boy that I raised. Yes. And it was very sweet. I love that from the trailer. So it was just it really hit in the movie as well, after seeing how it culminated. Which is really nice. So he goes off and follows Gwen, and you forget that he, because each Spider-Man has something unique. So he has invisibility, which is classic Spider stuff.
Invisibility, shock hands, he has a lot of different things that no one else has. So
he follows Gwen, and she goes back to the Spot's apartment, and
because since Gwen put the camera there and left, the Spot did his little experiment, and there's holes everywhere and cops everywhere in there now.
And so she's distracted the cops away from the crime scene or whatever, and then being that she has the advanced technology of the Spider Society, she's able to recreate whatever
Yeah,
happened.
what kind of tech is that?
I
Could
do
you
not
imagine that? Like you go into an empty room and you use this tech, and someone can see everything you did in that room for the past like 15 minutes. That's terrifying, and I can only imagine.
I can explain.
But
yeah, so they recreate what happened, and basically the spot, as he's talking to himself, but he's saying, I need more spots. I need more portals to different
it can
dimensions.
pick up the audio that this man says to. I'm like, oh my god.
And so, yeah, she sees that he recreated the collision explosion, got more spots, and now he's been hopping dimensions.
Yeah.
And basically going back to the collider site to re-explode it, so to get more and more and more of these spots. And so she gets a call from Jessica Drew, saying that there was a reason why they didn't want her going to Miles's, because she basically got distracted in his dimension because she wasn't gonna not see him,
even though she wasn't supposed to.
Yeah.
Nobody's supposed to see Miles. Yeah.
And so, what happens? Oh, so she's like, "Don't tell Miguel. I'll clean this up." So after they see that he's jumping from different dimensions, he's stopped in dimension, I think, 50101, which is Mumbattan.
Okay. Yeah.
And so she's like,
Mumbattan.
it's like
That's
Mumbai,
right,
Manhattan.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And so she's like, I can clean this up. Just give me an hour.
Yeah.
Or a few. Like, there's a time though. I feel like it was an hour.
Yeah.
But she's going to rendezvous with the Spider-Man from that universe, dimension, to capture the spot.
Yeah.
And she's saying all this while Miles is in the room, invisible.
Yeah.
And so, before she jumps into the portal to go to the next dimension, she kind of turns back towards the party. She can see the party on the rooftop for Jefferson, and she just says goodbye, Miles.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Miles has been invisibly watching all of this for the entire past time.
And so I think Miles kind of feeling responsible. He follows her into the portal.
Yeah.
Into this new dimension. There, we see that the spot is. She immediately gets into kind of an exchange with the spot where he's definitely under a better command of his powers now.
Yeah.
And so we meet the Spider-Man from this universe. Is Spider-Man India?
Yes.
Something like that.
Yeah.
It's interesting. So he didn't get his powers from a spider bite. He got his from magic.
Which interesting.
It was a little bit
did not
different.
know that. Yeah.
And so Spider-Gwen and Spider-Man India are fighting the spot. You know, but since he's more powerful now, they're really not having much luck.
Not doing too great. Yeah.
So Miles comes in to help, and she's really shocked that he's there. And he was like, "I came to help. I didn't follow you. I just went to where you were."
Yeah.
And so they start mentioning this guy Hobie.
Yes. Because she mentioned Hobie before, in general, when they were in passing. It's like, Hobie's a friend. I can crash in his dimension universe every now and then. Yeah. And then it's funny. But then while this whole fight's going on, Spider-Man India, he's just like, oh, there's so much tension between you.
Yeah.
All this love and affection and tension going between you. It's very funny. He was a funny, cool character. Yeah.
So you do get a bit of his backstory too. It was just he was like, I don't work out because I'm just super, super great.
Yeah, exactly. He is a cocky motherfucker. Yeah. He's just like,
but this is once again, these are the traits of just spider people in general across the board.
Well, I mean, it's across the board, but even because everyone's like, oh, it's so hard being Spider-Man. He's like, oh, it's so easy being Spider-Man. I'm great at this. What? I hang out with my mom, I have a great girlfriend, and I'm a hero.
But I guess it's also because he hasn't had his canon event yet.
He hasn't had a couple canon events happen yet. Yeah.
But yeah, so they call in for backup, and that's Hobie, or AKA Spider Punk, who is this punk rock version of Spider-Man from a totalitarian.
Yeah,
there we go.
Yeah,
Thank you. Dimension, basically from London. It was cool because it was very similar. I don't know if you saw the Cruella movie.
Okay.
But they had it was obviously based in London, and it had the same kind of punk rock.
Okay.
90s
well, it was definitely London. I think all up and down the UK. Yeah. It was super punk in the 80s and 90s and whatnot.
So that was we meet Hobie from his dimension. He's a guy in a band.
Yep.
And he's an anarchist, but still Spider-Man. So all of them are trying to stop Spot. He's gotten to the lab. Yeah. And he put up a force field.
Because this is when we're introduced to Hobie. It's because Miles is trying to shock with his fingertips.
Yeah, he's been working on. Yeah, he's been working on it. And Hobie comes in and just smashes it and says, "You need to use your palm, not just your fingertips." And so they try to stop the Spot because he activates the collider and then goes to actually like jump into the I guess the beam or whatever, and they stop him real quickly, but they can't. He cuts the web, and he crosses into the beam, and I think he touches Miles, and Miles gets a glimpse or a vision of the future or just Spot's plans.
Yeah,
and he sees like his dad. He was about to fall or something. It looked like his dad was about to fall, and then it was also like his dad is trying to protect a child or something like that. And so like we basically see like a vision of possibly what Spot has planned for Miles, because he keeps saying that he's trying to get more powerful to stop Miles. He blames Miles for why he is the way he is, so he wants to hurt him.
And he doesn't like the fact that Miles called him a villain of the week versus something big. So he doesn't care about any other Spider-Man but Miles. He wants to get super powerful and then like show Miles that he is like his arch nemesis.
And so the collider explodes. The Spot, jumps to another dimension. But the 4 Spider people that we have in this one have to protect the people because like the lab is collapsing. Collapsing. So like they need to stop that. And then like a bridge collapses as well. So like. Yes.
I was just going to say, for the record, a lot of people died. They did not rescue her. There's no way they rescued everybody. There's only 4 Spider people, and there's so much collapsing and being destroyed. And, like, they rescue a lot, and, like, the streets are empty. And I'm like, there's no way. There's no way a ton of people
I feel like Fast X did that. Yeah. And the new Fast and Furious movie did it. Was just like, because the opening scene of that one is, like, basically a rocket lead or something like that. Yeah. But, like, there's a bomb through whatever, I think it was Brazil, whatever city it was. And then, like, right after that scene, the action set piece, the news goes, no casualties. It was like, yeah, right.
Yeah, bullshit. Yeah, bullshit. No one died. Yeah.
But yeah, so we do see that the 4 Spider people working together to save, whoever they can. Yeah. And so we see that Spider-Man India, his girlfriend is on a bus that's fallen off of a bridge. And so like he webs it and he's like pulling the bus up to save her, but then he also sees her dad, who is a police captain.
Rescuing a child,
but even like something's about to fall on him, so like he literally has to decide who to save, his girlfriend or his girlfriend in his bus full of people, or her dad. Yeah, and like he's torn, but then you see Miles coming.
Like a pretty easy decision. Just throwing that out there. Or you just shoop, like I'm Spider-Man, web and pull, but whatever.
It's like who you gotta say, Spider-Man? Both. I don't.
I'm like, I'm Spider-Man. Like what?
Make it harder, Joker. You gotta Joker this from the Dark Knight. Okay, switcheroo. Yeah. Bombs going off automatically. Yeah. Don't give me time to think. But yeah, so. Spider-Man Indy doesn't need to make that decision because we see that Miles is going to save the dad.
Well,
right before,
yes, yeah.
You want to tell it?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So with that, Gwen has like her little wrist bracelet says a cannon event is about to happen. And you're like, what? What's this cannon event? Yeah. And then she also tries to stop Miles from saving because she's saying it's too dangerous. Yeah. You can't go. It's too dangerous. Yeah. And Miles is like, no, I can. I'm fucking Spider-Man. Yeah, dumbass. And like he goes and like and he does.
So he saves the dad and a little girl. Spider-Man India saves
the bus and his girlfriend
and you see like I obviously within just the Spider-Man lore that obviously the captain always had a certain hatred for Spider-Man.
Yeah, I think.
But but now he's like, well, you saved my daughter. You can't be all that bad type of thing. But as this is happening, like everybody's safe, and then we see that there's dimensional portals kind of opening up everywhere. Yeah. And it seems as if this dimension is collapsing in on itself. Yeah. And then so more portals open up from the Spider Society, and different Spider people come out to try to contain this anomaly in this universe. Yeah. And then we see that all of the people that Gwen, Hobie, and Miles are summoned to Spider-Man 2099 at the headquarters. And so we finally get to the Spider-Man Society HQ, and you just meet an infinite amount of different Spider people, which is really cool. And then we also see the different anomalies, so the Vulture that they have captured in the original, on the opening scene. You get a little cameo from Donald Glover as a Prowler from the MCU. And then he, what's his name? He meets meets up with Peter B. Parker from Into the Spider-Verse, and now Peter B. Parker has a daughter, Mayday. He also meets Spider-Bite, who is like this. She's like virtually tapped into the
she has like an Oculus on basically, and she's in her own universe but has an Oculus, and that's how she can be Spider-Man, is through that. So this virtual one instead.
And then so we finally meet well, not finally, but we meet him again, Miguel O'Hara, Spider-Man 2099, who is the leader of the Spider Society, and he's basically explaining the lore of this world, and he's saying that every single Spider person is linked. Like there's basically a universe, like a multiverse. So it's like a multiversal link, and they're linked by canon events. And it was like, it doesn't matter how it happens, but there's a loss of a parental figure, whether that be a captain, Uncle Ben, obviously from MCU, Aunt May. There's a loss of like some parental figure. And they're consistent throughout every Spider-Man. And what he did when he stopped the captain, like Spider-Man India's girlfriend's father from dying, he stopped that canon event.
The canon event of every time there's a Spider-Man who gets close to a police captain who, like, that police captain dies. So wait, does Miles know a police captain?
And so then Miles realizes, he was like, shit, like, well, my dad is about to become a police captain. Does that mean that he has the same fate? And this is where you see like Peter B. Parker and Gwen both. He was like, well, that's...
Is this when you learn that he's like the original anomaly too?
Not yet. And so that's when Miles is trying to get back to his universe to save his dad, and that's when Miguel is like, that's why we don't want you to know, because we don't want you stopping this your own canon event, because one anomaly in a universe will disrupt the rest of the multiverse.
Because he explains what his situation was.
Yes, and then he goes back. So he says that Miguel had found a universe where he was married and had a family. But then that dimensions, Miguel O'Hara died, so this one just thought, I'm just going to take his place. But then he quickly saw that the universe, once again trying to correct itself, just imploded.
So wait, but like he couldn't have just like left that universe and it wouldn't have like fixed itself or something like that. So this was the one where like, because this happened, and then he also said something to Peter B. Parker. He's like, because you know what happens here, and I was like, did you destroy his universe too? And I was like, wait, like, because he destroyed that universe, and he was like to Peter B. Parker again, he was like, you'll know the ramifications of this, which made me think that Peter B. Parker also somehow lost his universe, even though he has like his little baby girl chilling around there. So I was very confused with later when you find out that his universe is still there. I'm like, then why did Peter B. Parker know what you're talking about? Has he just been around long enough?
I think that's what was interesting. It was like what made Miguel so compelling was just like, is he correct, right? Because obviously in this attempt to make sure that no other universe ever collapses, and we don't really affect the overall multiverse. Is he correct, or was that just like an anomaly in itself?
Right, exactly. But I mean, you look at it like, I mean, Spider-Man, the character Spider-Man is a tragic character where all this stuff has happened to him in like throughout all the iterations of Spider-Man. So I guess that is kind of important that those things keep happening, because that's why they have, and every other Spider-Man agrees with Miguel on this. Is like, this is for the greater good. Like, think of all the people that
it's kill one and save a million.
Exactly.
And so Miles obviously wants to save his dad, wants to get back to his universe. Miguel puts him in the same kind of force field trap that he had put Gwen's dad in earlier in the movie. It was just like, the spot is going to kill your dad in 2 days. We need you to stay here and let that happen. We can't have you interfering and messing up the rest of the multiverse. And this is where you see earlier, as you were saying, that Miles was trying to shock the force field with his fingertips, and you get Hobie being an anarchist saying, use your palms.
Because Hobie's just like, palms.
And so Miles uses his palms, shocks the force field, breaks out, and then immediately starts running. He needs to find a way to get back to his universe. And so I think you see this in the trailer, but you don't really know what's going on in the trailer, but basically Miguel puts out an alert to all of the Spider people in the HQ to stop Spider-Man. And it was like, initially it was funny as hell because it was just like, you? And they do that.
Yeah, the Spider-Man meme of like, who's
but it was like him, like Miles Morales. Like, and so, we get this amazing chase scene through the Spider Society headquarters, meeting a bunch of different Spider people. Yeah.
And apparently Miles Morales is the strongest Spider-Man out of everybody.
It was like a dinosaur.
Yeah, right. Like, so that's my thing too. And like, I don't think. I guess he is. Based on this, Miles Morales truly is like the strongest Spider-Man because he's able to beat everyone. Yeah,
it was a little far fetched.
Yeah, that's a little far fetched to me. Yeah, like.
And then it was like what made it. And we said this in the theater. It was just like, where's he going?
Yeah,
you're trapped in this dimension, young man. I don't.
Which though I will say, when the plan makes sense at the end,
it was
like,
cool.
Okay,
I will say that it was.
I
had to give him his credit, but initially I'm just like, where are we going?
Yeah, like what's going on?
I know you're thinking on your feet. Yeah. But what are we doing?
Yeah.
And so like he sneaks like he runs. He breaks out of the headquarters, and now he's like in the city of the dimension. And I think he hides away at some point.
He has another conversation.
And he has a conversation with Peter B. Parker. And he's like he mentions it was like you're the reason because it was like Peter B. Parker feels bad that he had a lot of and that was, like Gwen said though that's why she hadn't visited even though they have the power to because they have the interdimensional watches. He was like, they just knew that they couldn't. They can't. Yeah. And he was like, but he was saying it was like, because of you is why I have Mayday. Like, it's because as your mentor, I realized it was like, I wanted to be a dad. Yeah. And stuff like that. But not Peter, Miles isn't trying to hear it. He's trying to get back to because he feels betrayed.
Yeah. Well, because because that conversation's going on, and then Miguel finds them and says something, and then means Peter B. Parker is lying to Miles about something because then Miles is like, "You're lying to me about this too," which I get, and then
and so Miles is able to escape. He hops on a train, trolley or a rocket, that's headed towards the moon.
Yeah, is that okay? That's what
that's what.
Okay, yeah.
And so they're all like, so I think Miguel has him. He captures him. He's like literally beating him.
Yeah, Miguel's beating the fuck out of him right here.
And he's like just telling him it was like, and then like they're obviously having this conversation back and forth. It was like you can't like this is for the greater good, yada yada yada. Yeah. And then he has him pinned down, and he says, "You're the original anomaly." Yeah.
Because I'm pretty sure Miles is the only Miles Morales. Like, there's like a billion Peter Parkers, but Miles is the
Gwen
only.
Stacy's,
and Gwen Stacy's, yeah. And like, there's probably not a ton of other Gwen Stacy's, but there's probably a few. Like, Peter Parker is in whatever universe. Yeah. But yeah, I think Miles is the only Miles Morales Spider-Man.
And so Miguel tells him that you are the original anomaly because of the fact that the Spot when he was a scientist grabbed a spider from Earth 42. And that spider bit you and that's why the Peter Parker in what world is Miles? 1610.
1610, yeah.
That's why that Peter Parker died because once again the universe is self-correcting. We have two Spider-Men. We can't have that. So theoretically, because we don't know.
Yeah, you really don't know if that was.
But Miguel says is like that's why your dimensions Peter Parker died.
Yep. And then Earth 42.
Earth 42, doesn't have a Spider-Man at all. Yeah, and it was like now that that dimension is in chaos because it's lacking a hero. Yep. And then Miles again finds out that's why Gwen hadn't visited him. It was forbidden.
Yeah, because he's forbidden.
He's the anomaly. That's why he couldn't join the Spider Society. That's why he's been kind of not in contact or in the loop with the rest of the Spider people.
Yeah, because literally every other Spider person just about it's shit for this one.
Because she had told him when she told him about the early in the movie when she finally when she first jumps into his dimension. He was like, are they hiring or whatever? Recruiting. And she was like, no, we're full. Team's
it's very
full.
Selective. It's very only a couple people.
And then you get to the Ace quarters, and it was like literally so all these people,
everyone but you, kid.
Yeah. And so this is where he tells him that he's the original anomaly, that you wasn't supposed to be Spider-Man, like you're nothing.
We're all just hammering on this kid. I'm like, jeez. So Spider-Man, whatever, he's also like part vampire or something.
Yeah, that was. I wish they would have gotten deeper into
because there was, and sorry to backtrack, in the very beginning he almost bit the crap
Yes,
out of the vulture.
Yeah,
he
yeah,
opened it, like had fangs, and
it was like there was
what?
something, he took some vial. It was like on some blade shit.
Yeah, I'm
where
like,
it was just like he took something just to kind of suppress.
Yeah.
Like whatever.
So you don't see much of this besides he's using claws to climb versus like not, and his webs are different looking.
Yeah, they're
too.
like red, like
red laser web.
Yeah,
Anyway,
but so we find out that Miles is the original anomaly because he wasn't supposed to be a Spider-Man in his dimension, and then we get his plan, right? So he feels betrayed by both Gwen and Peter B. Parker.
Yep.
But we get his plan, and it was to basically lure all of the Spider people away from the headquarters.
Yeah.
And then he knocks Miguel back, and then goes invisible so that he can head towards the back towards the headquarters, because they have a machine that they were using to ship all of the anomaly villains,
which is just total nightmare fuel. Did you for all these? It's like this giant.
It was Love, Death, and Robots.
Yeah, I think it was creepy looking. And could you imagine, you're a villain, you're like, what's going on? And this giant spider thing just goes down on you. Yeah. No.
And Miles sneaks back into the headquarters because now it's empty except for Spider-Bite, who's manning the machine.
Yeah.
And is basically security.
And they had like a cute interaction earlier too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so he turns on the machine, scans himself, and then goes to the machine starts. So he jumps into it so that it can send him back to his dimension.
Yeah, and
Spider-Bite is trying to stop it along with the AI of the HQ. Miguel arrives and he's trying to break Miles out of the machine.
Yep.
And then we see Spider-Bite briefly. She finds a way to stop the.
She could have stopped
the machine, but she looks at Miles, and
you can just see the desperation on Miles's face.
And because they had that exchange earlier, she just lets it go, and so he's beamed back to his.
I think she let it go for a different reason, and we'll talk about that shortly.
But
not actually.
She's beamed back. I'm sorry. Miles is beamed back to his original dimension, and. Well, so he's beamed home.
Yeah.
And then Miguel, frustrated with Gwen, he was like, we need to get there now to stop him from stopping the spot.
Yeah.
And then Gwen, because I think she had also...
Well, Gwen, they, fire Gwen.
I can't remember what was said, but he was, basically saying, it was this is why we didn't want you going.
Yeah.
You kind of started all this. he followed you to Mumbattan, and, now... he stopped that cannon event. So she basically gets fired, and they send her back to her dimension, which is basically a fate worse than death because of the fact that now her dad knows. Yeah. So she can't go home or whatever.
Oh, and earlier in all this too, Hobie chucked down his and said, "I quit."
Yes, So right as Miles broke free from the force field, he says, "I quit."
Yeah.
And he jumps back to his dimension.
Yeah.
And so Miles is Miles is at home.
Yep.
He gets home, and then Gwen is sent home, and
then the others. So Miguel, Ben Reilly's character, and Jessica Drew, they go to Miles's universe dimension to then also look for him.
I just want to talk about Gwen first because hers is quick, and then we can. Gwen is home. In her dimension, she goes to her house, sneaks in. She's trying to get some stuff. She's trying to avoid her dad. Trying to get some stuff that she had hidden in her drum set, and then so she could leave. But there's nothing in her drum set. Her dad had found it, and it was just a picture of her and Miles and a few other things. And so she goes to get it, and then she hears her dad says something. He wakes up because he was asleep on the couch. He wakes up, and they initially have an argument. She says that she was like, you still think I'm a killer, and it was them both being kind of defiant. And so he's fine, whatever, and then he goes to leave, and then she kind of breaks down, and she was like, well, what do you want from me? What are we doing here? And she was just he just tells her that he doesn't care, he doesn't want to arrest her anymore. He just he's not being a cop for once. He's being a dad. He still has this compass of I am upholding the law.
He said he quits.
Yeah, cop. And then he tells her he's not a captain anymore. It was more important for him to be with his daughter than to be a cop.
Yeah.
And they had they have this heartfelt moment. I think Kenny cried.
Because
I was talking to him and his sister earlier, and he was like, I cried 3 times, man. So they have this heartfelt moment where it's just but she realizes as they're having that moment that the canon event can be it can be deterred without actually disrupting anything.
Yeah, exactly. Like there's overlap, but not every canon event necessarily needs to happen.
Yes,
it looks like here.
And so she's like, "Shit, I need to go back to save Miles. Like, I need to get him some help."
Yeah.
And so then we see that Hobie had stopped by her universe and left her one of the watches.
He made his own.
Yeah.
Hobie made his own punk rock watch universe thing.
Yeah. So he made one for her just in case things went bad. He said in a note.
Yeah.
And so, like, she's going to go try to help Miles. So she jumps into his universe, 1610. And so now we have Miles in his universe and Miguel, Jess, Ben O'Reilly.
Or it's either Ben O'Reilly or Ben Riley. It's just Ben Riley. Yeah.
And Gwen. And so, like, when Gwen arrives, like, Ben Riley is, like, staking out Miles's apartment.
Yeah.
And you hear something in the... You know that was Andy Samberg?
Yes. Yeah. Ben Riley's Andy Samberg. Yeah.
So, like, he's staking out the apartment. He hears something in the alleyway. And he's, like, narrating as he's going along, but nobody else is there.
Well, I think Ben Riley, the Scarlet Spider, was, like, a 90s grungy Spider-Man when he came out, something like that. So he was supposed to be that hard edge, like, I'm Ben Riley. My life's hard. Yeah. So it's Andy Samberg, saying all this, which is
that's
hysterical.
like a Spider Noir from the first one.
Yes.
It's just like, I'm brooding.
I'm brooding.
But yeah, so he gets distracted. Gwen is able to take his watch and throw him back into whatever dimension.
Yeah.
So now there's only Jessica Drew, Miguel O'Hara in this dimension. And so she goes to Miles's apartment, and he's not there. She sees his parents arguing or whatever, like, they don't know where he is, like they're fighting. And so she talks to them and says that...
Well, because this is all going on in parallel.
Yes.
Yeah, because in parallel, Miles is in the other universe.
Yes.
And, like, so you see, he's, like, getting ready to talk. He sees his mom, and he's, like, revealing to his mom, like, oh, I'm Spider-Man.
Yes.
What's going on? And mom's like, what's going on? And this all happening in parallel, which is
That's
really
what I was trying to do. I was trying to do it. Like, I didn't know how to actually...
Yeah.
So, as Gwen goes into Miles's room, it's empty.
Yes.
But we do see Miles in his room.
And
this is when we realize that the machine scanned him, but it didn't scan Miles. It scanned the venom from the spider that bit him.
Powers.
That's where it sent him to Earth 42.
And Spider-Bite knew he was going to Earth 42, and that's why she didn't bother stopping it.
Oh.
No, not actually. I don't know, maybe.
That's an interesting...
So I'm going to say it's possible, like, so, because she looked at the machine, looked up, but she probably didn't know.
That's what was
But what I personally want is I want her to be I want her to be a traitor to Miles' cause later, because later on
that's fair, but it was like, if that's the case, then why shouldn't you just tell him to go?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, because she knew it'd be even more messed up. I don't know. Yeah.
But
anyway.
But we see them both in Miles' room, but in two different dimensions. She is in Miles' original dimension, and Miles is in the original dimension of the spider that bit him.
Yeah, so Miles is in Earth 42, and then Gwen is in 1610.
Yeah. So she has a heart-to-heart with, because she realizes, oh shit, like, she realized what happened. But they're complaining, the parents are arguing because of the fact that Miles... hasn't returned. And they're blaming basically Gwen or whatever. And like, so she goes out and she just, she doesn't know what to say. She was like, but she does tell them that Miles loves them very much. And one thing she learned about him is that anything is possible. Or nothing is impossible. Sorry. And so she leaves to go try to find Miles basically. Back in Earth 42. Miles' mother comes into the room and she said, I got to work or whatever. And so he finally feeling like, because of the fact his experience with the spider people was just like, he fought for himself. He did what she told him to do. He took care of himself. He stood up for himself. He didn't let people define what his story was going to be. And so he finally feels the courage to, because he tried to earlier to reveal that he was Spider-Man to his mom. Right before she gave him that speech, but he couldn't do it. But now he feels the courage to tell her. And so he removes his coat and shows that he's Spider-Man. And she goes, who's that? Is that your favorite? Is that your favorite superhero? Like, who the hell is that? And he's confused, and then he mentions his dad, and she kind of like writes it off. She was like, I don't have time for this.
I'm taking care of us. This is all I got time for.
And then so he goes. They leave his room. She goes to the kitchen, and somebody opens the door, and it is his uncle. Uncle Aaron, who in Into the Spider-Verse died. Was killed by Kingpin, and so he's confused. He's like, how are you alive? and he mentioned something. Aaron mentioned something about it was like, "When you took out your braids."
Yeah, you took out your braids,
and that's when it clicks for Miles finally that he is no longer. He didn't go back to his universe.
Yeah,
he went to to Earth 42, and so like you see Aaron give the mom some money. Clearly, she's struggling. She's working double shifts at the hospital and stuff like that. But he's helping where he can.
Yep. Yeah.
And so like she mentions that she needs Miles to go grocery shopping, and Aaron is like, I got him.
Yeah.
And so like they go up to the roof, and he's basically mentioning like some job that they're gonna do.
Some kind of illegal job.
Yeah. And so they go up to the rooftop, and as they're talking, Miles sees a mural of his dad. And so originally when Jefferson was giving a speech at his party, there's a mural of Aaron.
Yep, because it's a mural that Miles made.
Yeah, because his uncle had died. So in place of Aaron, it is Jefferson who died.
Yeah.
And so now Miles is like, shit, my dad's dead here. But before he can realize that, he gets knocked out.
Yes. Yeah. Where's your Spidey sense going? Just out of curiosity.
It was really selective.
Yeah, it's real selective. I'm like,
even with Gwen.
Yeah.
It was like in the beginning of the movie when when the vulture like attacked her or like got the best. It was like, but it was there later. It was like super weird.
No, but that's the problem with Spider Sense is it's such an OP power. Like literally, like so Spider-Man from a power perspective is ridiculously strong.
Because you literally shouldn't be able to hit him.
Yeah, you should never be able.
It was
to
like
hit
him in the Flash.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
But yeah, so he gets knocked out, and then he wakes up and he's chained up to a punching bag.
Yeah,
and he's like, Uncle Aaron, what are you doing? Are you still the Prowler?
Yeah, you're the Prowler, but it's fine.
He was like, no, and then we see the Prowler, and the Prowler approaches Miles, and he takes off his mask.
It's very short, the Prowler. So you kind of know it's going to happen the whole time. You're like, because even when you first saw the Prowler, like when he got knocked out, you saw like this like shorter figure jump and like punch Miles and knock him out. I'm like, okay, so Miles is the Prowler in this one.
And so the Prowler removes his mask, and it is Earth 42's version of Miles
who has
become who has become the Prowler.
So braids are evil.
And this was interesting because of the fact that, like Miguel had said earlier, because the Spot had taken the spider from 42, there isn't a Spider-Man in this. Whatever. There isn't a Spider-Man in this universe.
Yeah. And you do see like when they go up to the roof and you look around, there's fires everywhere.
Yeah, it was very much like a dystopian.
Yeah.
Trash. I don't know why trash can fires are such a staple in Hollywood when it comes to dystopia.
That's how you know. All right.
Nobody has central heating.
No, that's what trash can fires. That's what you got to do.
But yeah, so because obviously because he didn't get bit by this version of Miles didn't get bit by a spider. His dad died.
Yep.
So he was always cool with his uncle, but I think his dad was keeping him tethered to like the right side of the law.
Oh yeah. So now since he and his uncle they do jobs together, they're bad guys.
And so now that because I think that's what I loved about Into the Spider-Verse that relationship between Aaron and Miles was just like, obviously there was tension between Aaron and Jefferson as brothers because they're on opposite ends of the law.
Yeah.
But Miles was still close with his uncle, and he was like, Aaron still supported his like tagging and stuff like that, where his dad didn't. So it was like you love that relationship between them.
Yeah, and also Aaron didn't do any in the original. He didn't do anything with Miles that was like illegal.
Yeah.
Like,
he still kept him away from it.
Yeah, like tagging's illegal, but it's not like they're not robbing shit together. Yeah.
And so, but in this one, as Miles' main father figure, it was like he's definitely brought him into this life. And so Miles mentions to 42 Miles, it was like, I need to save my dad. Like, he's alive. Like our dad is alive in my dimension. Yeah. And Miles goes, 42 goes, your dad.
I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
I'm like, damn, that's cold.
And so while that's happening, we see that Gwen has gone to recruit some of the other Spider people that we met in both Into the Spider-Verse and Across the Spider-Verse. So she first goes to Peter B. Parker.
Yep. Yeah.
And then she gets Hobie.
Yeah. Well, because you have Peter B. Parker. That's the whole scene. Like he's talking with May, or not May, with
Mary Jane.
Mary Jane. And then he's like, "Oh, it was a rough day at work," and blah blah. He's trying to figure out what the right thing to do. And then he has his daughter who he's putting down to bed. But then he turns and sees, and Gwen comes through the portal by herself to look at him. He's like, "Don't tell your."
No, that's what it was.
Yeah.
It was like he was sleeping, I think, in his daughter's room on the couch.
Yeah.
And then he wakes up and she's like hanging from the ceiling upside down, and she goes.
Oh,
she points
to the window.
He points to the window, and I was just like, "Holy shit! What a way to wake up!"
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah. So Gwen grabbed Peter B. Parker, as you said.
Yeah, Peter Porker, Spider-Man Noir, like all of mainly the characters from Into the Spider-Verse, and then a few of the ones
plus Spider-Man India. Hobie was in that group too. Yeah.
And it's like, so she's saying it was like basically her journey. This movie was going from not wanting to be a part of a team to using that team in order to go save Miles, right?
Yeah.
So, and then you have finally the Spot has arrived in 1610.
Yes.
So this is where, and this is what I was saying. It was like if I would have known that this was part one of a part two. A lot of this, like what they were doing, would have made sense because I'm just like, y'all ain't got enough time to conclude.
Yeah, it was.
these.
I'm just like, I was like, that's gonna be a really fast final.
But it was
fight.
like at the conclusion of the movie, you have Gwen has recruited a team to help Miles. Miguel, the Spot, and Jessica Drew are in 1610, and then Miles is captured in Earth 42 with the Prowler version of himself.
Yep. Yeah.
And it was, and then you just get a flash at the end that says "to be continued."
Yes. Yeah.
And now we'll get Beyond the Spider-Verse in March of 2024.
There you go. And in that, it'll be a quick 30-minute movie. We have the team assembled.
Punch.
Yeah,
as my niece says.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So, solid movie. And that is Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. So at the end of all of our podcasts, we always just like to revisit our original ranking to see if anything changed. Michael, you gave it a 4. Did anything change, sir?
I'm sticking with a 4.
Sticking with a 4?
Like I said, I think it had a few. I do have a few gripes with this one. So it doesn't exceed the original, but it was like it wasn't terrible. I'm not like it's few nitpicks, so it's just like nothing terrible. Like I said, I want to see it again. I probably will before.
Okay.
In the next week or so. Like I really did enjoy it.
Yeah, I think I might also try because we have the Regal Unlimited, so I think I might try and see it again in the theaters too before, because right now I think I'm sticking with a 3.5, but I think if I watch it again, it might go up. So that's kind of the feeling I'm getting.
I'm interested if you. I mean, it'll be a year from now, but it was like if you saw them like both parts together, do you think it would be a higher rating?
Maybe so, like,
because since it technically you just saw half a film.
Yeah, right,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's possible. I didn't mention it with part of the gripes, but then like with the animation changing, I remember when Gwen and her dad hugged and everything turned white
super
all of a sudden,
bright,
and I was like, why did I don't like.
That's what I'm saying. There was my issue with the animation. Not that it wasn't amazing, but it was like there was no consistency through. So like 50101, which was Mumbai or whatever, had a certain animation. It was like each dimension, like Lego had its own whatever. It was like each dimension had its own animation, but they didn't keep it consistent.
Yeah. Which makes sense because each dimension does have a different animation. So,
but it was like they didn't even keep it consistent within that dimension, which was frustrating. Because like you said, it got super bright in Gwen's dimension when like she hugged her dad.
Yeah, which kind of happened out of nowhere.
So it was just like I think that's what bothered me, and then also 2 hours of it was a little bit like jarring.
Yeah. So I'm sticking with my 3.5. Though honestly, part of me is like maybe I should really give it a 4, but I'm sticking with my 3.5. I still think it was a very good movie. I still think everyone should go see it, but that's what I'm sticking with for right now. But yeah, so. That is Ramblings from Two Meddling Kids. Thank you so much, everybody, for listening. Mike, if they want to find you, how can they find you?
On Instagram at Days from Legendary, and then also if you want or if you can go look up at Push-Ups for Change for the little fundraising thing I'm doing this month.
Beautiful. And if you'd like to reach out to the Meddling Kids, we are at 2meddlingkids on Twitter and Instagram. If you'd like to email us, it's 2meddlingkids@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. And then, check us out. If you want to reach out to me personally, my Twitter and Instagram is at edhunt77. And for my comic, I also have at hunt.comics. And that's what I'm kind of doing with all my writing stuff. I think will be that Instagram handle. But thank you again so much for listening, everybody. And we'll see you next week with a new movie. Gotcha.
Bye.